Okay, if I can have your attention, please. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. Appreciate everyone's effort to be here. We do want to honor your time and start and end on time. So we're going to do that now. And I want to welcome you to our extended cabinet meeting. And so what you're experiencing today is a cabinet meeting that's been extended to all of us that are in this room, students, staff, community partners, our union leaders, etc., because we have a fundamental belief that we want to put into operation. The fundamental belief is that we involve people in the decisions that affect them. And so I'm going to repeat that over again in just a little while when I come back to the purpose of our extended cabinet. But I want to welcome you. If this is your first time here, this is a venue where I, as superintendent, can get greater feedback in terms of things we're thinking of doing around here, making sure that we make the best decisions for our community as stewards of the resources that have been entrusted to us to educate and prepare our young people to be successful. So with that, you'll see in the purpose statement, part of what we do is to celebrate. So I'd like you to take about 5 or 6 minutes to, or actually let's take 3 because we have a tight schedule, 3 minutes to discuss any celebrations that you've heard of or that are going in and on and around and among us. So if your table's small, join a couple larger tables, have a discussion, and we want to be prepared to share out some celebrations. They can be personal, professional, corporate, whatever you have, but we want to hear some celebrations, and we always like to start on that note. So please take 3 minutes to do that. Okay, may I have your attention, please? I'll need a microphone runner, so anybody who's wanting to get a few extra steps in today, if you don't mind being my microphone runner, I'll accept any volunteers. All right. Fantastic. So if you could share some accomplishments in, around, among us, professionally, personally, it's always helpful. State your name, where you work specifically, or who you're affiliated with, and then what the celebration or accomplishment is. You've been volunteered.
I've been voluntold. Okay.
All right.
Debbie volunteered.
Great.
All right.
Well,
I am very excited. I'm excited to share, but over the first week of January, our building got upgraded, our electrical got upgraded. We got networking, new workstations. Come the first day of school, everything was set, everyone was excited. It is so great to come to work, and it was just perfect. It worked out perfectly. And it was thanks to the efforts to all our support departments. So that was awesome.
Significant accomplishment. Give them a hand. That's great. Fantastic. All right, we have one from Rebecca Clark.
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Clark, Coordinator for Elementary Instruction. And on Saturday, as well as yesterday, we started a new round of GATE certification training. So we have another 80 teachers participating, and their feedback so far has been outstanding.
Fantastic. All right, give them a hand. It's a great accomplishment. Keep going. I know we have a lot more to go. A lot.
This weekend I was at the Rotary International Peace Conference. Fantastic conference, but I think the highlight of the evening was when they had the first responders acknowledged and by the entire community and responded, and that was our city police, our school police, and everything that they did was an outstanding dinner, outstanding acknowledgement of the great work that they do, not only for that tragedy, but day in and day out. So it was a great accomplishment. Fantastic.
Great event. I was there myself. That was fantastic.
James Espinoza here at beautiful Middle College, which we're grateful for. Thank you, District. One of the things that we're celebrating is we just got our fall semester grades in for the college. And everybody knows we did pretty well on our state testing, but that's just one measurement. And one of the things that we've been working super hard on is our pyramid response to intervention. Really two things. One, not losing any kids. And then secondly, increasing GPAs and college success. So out of 507 possible sections, 45% of our kids earned an A in those sections, 37% a B, and 95% a C or better. And so the other exciting part was that it represented a 3-year trend up And so GPAs are rising dramatically, and that's a celebration.
All right, congratulations. Fantastic. And James, thanks again and always for lending us this facility. It's a perfect location for us.
Hey, Ron Fletcher. I represent substitute teachers, and I've just accomplished one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and that was to convince my wife, who's a retired teacher, to become a substitute. And she is subbing today at Palm Elementary.
All right, hey, congratulations. It's great. Other celebrations, accomplishments among us? We have several.
I'm going to sit if that's okay.
You may.
I'm Laura Strachan, Director of Alternative Programs, and it's not my celebration, but it's all of ours. But at Sierra High School, for Rose here, she want to say it herself, they have been recommended for a model continuation school, which is a big feather in our cap, and so that is going forward to the state, and they did an awesome job.
Absolutely fantastic. Give them a hand.
Pardon us for being late, but we just came from a meeting in LA, first of all. In December, we nominated Chief Paulino for Director and Chief of Police for the Year for Campus Safety Magazine. As of yesterday, I found out he's one of 2 finalists for the magazine, so congratulations to him.
Big round of applause for our own Chief Joe Paulino. These are natural outcomes of doing great work, is to celebrate accomplishments. Keep going. I know there's several more out there, and I haven't heard them all yet, so keep it going.
Business Services has 2 celebrations. One is we got a unmodified or clean financial audit for 14-15, and we have a positive certification on our first interim report. Yahoo!
And just to further toot their horn, the auditor said for a large urban, this is very unique, that we had as clean of a budget as we did. So that's a real compliment to the team. Other celebrations, keep going.
I want to compliment both the superintendent and Dr. Volkemer. We had an athletic strategic plan board meeting yesterday. That was the heaviest lift of the time, and so they got it and then got it to the board. And Dr. Volkemer, appreciate all your work because that was strategically very challenging.
Fantastic. Give them a big hand. Great team effort. Rare you'll find it to be that a large urban has a strategic plan for their athletics program, trying to model after, Texas, where they start looking at elementary school to see if you're ready for football, right? I mean, we want to get there, so fantastic. Who else has a celebration to share? I know we have many more among us that you're aware of in the district. For a couple schools, here we go, Gonzalo. Here, I'm closer, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Gonzalo Avila from the district office. Currently, we have 24 elementary schools signed up to become AVID elementary schools for next year.
Fantastic. I'm also aware, and I'll share on behalf of the schools that aren't here, we have two schools that have been recognized as schools to watch. So 2 of our middle schools, and so it's, doggone it, my mind just goes blank, Serrano and Curtis, thank you very much. So those 2 schools to watch, and national schools to watch, and that is a first for San Mateo City Unified School District. So give those schools a hand on those accomplishments as well. And it was my pleasure earlier this week to visit with a team called the National Center for Urban School Transformation, NCUST. They're stationed out of San Diego, but they work nationally to identify schools that meet the very rigorous criteria as these NCUST schools. And Hillside National University Demonstration School is being recognized as one of only 22 schools in the nation with that distinction. And they had their site visit. So we're waiting to hear final word on confirmation, but we believe it will be positive. So we're excited about that celebration. Give them a hand as well. That's great work. All right, so with that and those accomplishments, I know there are probably more, and please feel free to interrupt anytime if you have some more to share. But I want to again to come back to the purpose of the meeting. So this is a cabinet meeting. Cabinet consists of the superintendent and the assistant superintendents, et cetera, and some other team members, our director of communications, director of fiscal services, and staff. The purpose of this meeting is to extend our cabinet to gain input because we have a deep belief in the district that we want to emulate throughout the system, and that is that we involve people in the decisions that affect them. Let me say that again, because I know I need to probably say it several times till it actually permeates every part of our organization. We involve people in the decisions that affect them. I want you to think about that and let it sit in your head for a minute, kind of like, you know, you take the tea bag and you put it in a cup. We involve people in the decisions that affect them. Think about what that means with the people that work with you. How well are we doing at involving people that we work with in the decisions that affect them? That's really the test of whether we're a power over organization or if we're a power with organization. The better we do at involving people in the decisions that affect them, the better we'll be as a power with organization. So that's our task. It's a deep, fundamental belief I have, and I hope that you will capture it in your heart as a fundamental belief as well and put it into practice in all that you do. Thinking about the stakeholders that work in and around and among you. Think about our students. We don't have enough students in this room today. We don't have enough parents in this room today. We don't have enough community members yet in this room today. But we want to involve people deeply in the decisions that affect them, and that is so important to us. And today's meeting, coming back and revisiting our 3-year plan of what we used to call our LCAP. It's now called our Community Engagement Plan, a local control and accountability plan of the San Bernardino City Unified School District, but it is our plan. We want to go through that and make sure and hear back from everybody that we're still on track. So that's the core of our presentation. But again, this meeting is strategic for us. It's important. We may be done early today based on the agenda topic. We may be right up to the wire depending on what our needs are. But the rational outcome there is to understand our progress on the LCAP, formerly called the LCAP, and our experiential outcomes, as you can see listed there. The next piece, Dr. Wiseman was going to lead, but he had to go home ill today, and Dr. Zamora is also out ill today. So hopefully he's not passing around any of us, but we'll take that on as it comes. We do have the pleasure of having Ms. Sandra Rodriguez lead us in the discussion on our Basics for Excellence. So welcome her, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marsden. So part of being a part of a great organization is that we really internalize the behaviors of what great organizations are all about. And over the past few years, we've gone through a process of identifying things that we feel, what we want to see, hear, and feel in a great organization. And we came up with our Basics for Excellence. And through that journey, we then adopted our speed of trust behaviors on how we were going to operate in this organization of excellence. So it is January 2016. It is still appropriate to say Happy New Year. So on behalf of our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Wiseman, Happy New Year to all of you. And with New Year's comes resolutions, comes re-examining ourselves, reflection on how we can do better and how we can improve ourselves and our conditions around us. But it also comes a time where we reflect on what we can do and how we make a difference in what we do every day and how we interact with people. So we want to give you an opportunity to review our speed of trust behaviors, our Basics for Excellence. But here's the twist. We're going to look at this and we're going to find real life examples in things that we do every day, in people that we interact with every single day. And we're going to identify those people that embody these speed of trust behaviors. People that really make the difference and live and breathe these Basics for Excellence. You're going to talk about it at your tables. You're going to give examples of why this person does a great job at righting wrongs, okay? Because part of our growth is that we live and breathe these, that they're not just on our table or on the wall somewhere, but that we really internalize this and make this our own. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to reflect, talk, and then we're going to share. So in my teacher mode, I'm going to put on my timer, 3 minutes. Okay, so which table is going to share first? Should we voluntold anybody? Should we volunteer? Mr. Tykel.
And before I did this, I got the consensus from the table, so everyone at my table had input on this, just to let you know. We looked at demonstrate respect, genuinely care for others, show you care, respect the dignity of every person in every role, treat everyone with respect, especially those who can't do anything for you, show kindness in the little things. And the person that we selected that exemplifies this is a person that I first observed when he was a principal at Lincoln Elementary, and that's Dr. Harold Volkemer. Outstanding job, and he's done it every day and day out.
Great example. Okay, who's next? Okay, so here we go, Mr. Vasquez.
Good afternoon. Hector Vasquez, Principal, Pacific High School. At our table, we all agreed and nominated Mr. Terry Comnick, and we chose professionalism. We exhibit professionalism by providing superior customer service while adhering to quality professional standards. And I can tell you that as a principal, I can count on Terry to always have the budget ready to let me know exactly how much I can spend and how much I can't spend. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Terry.
This person was nominated for his positive passion. This person is extremely positive, hardworking. Just his enthusiasm with everything he does is infectious. And he was also my kid's principal during elementary school, and that says a lot if you know my personality. And he just led all the parents to follow him, just extremely positive as a site principal. And when he's at the district and in meetings, just his positive nature, I know I keep saying, but it's infectious and wants you to go along with whatever concept that he's presenting. So I'd like to say Chris Tikel.
Okay, so I'm near this table. Who's going to share from here?
So embodying the speed of trust behaviors, basics for excellence, does not always have to be adults. So that's something that we always need to remember, because people are people of all shapes and sizes. And I have a student who I've watched in my 3 years as principal at San Gregorio High School who used to be squirrely, and I'd have to get out of the office, you can't hang up here, gotta go to class, who has just grown and matured into a fine young man. I want to recognize Robert Alvarado Jr. He has really exemplified getting better, extremely professional, and he also has really exemplified, demonstrating respect. So I want to commend Robert Alvarado Jr.
That's very impressive. All right, so we're going to move to our union table. Which one would like to speak?
So, you guys are teachers too. So we selected positive passion and talking about experiencing enthusiasm. And I was sharing with the gentleman, Barbara Ariant Miss Ariant is a classroom teacher. She's the only classroom teacher in the room here. I want to thank her principal for helping make arrangements so she had coverage for last period so she can make it in this room. So they both exemplified positive passion to be here at this stakeholder meeting. And hopefully we can encourage some other principals to bring a teacher along with you as well when you come to this meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to make my rounds around the table. So
we also wanted to say congratulations to someone that's just started, but she has the heart to talk straight. One of the biggest things that we don't have today is straight talk, and that person is Sandra. Thank you.
and I didn't pay him to say that. I didn't do that. Okay, who from here?
Yeah, this table picked talk straight, to be honest, tell the truth, and let people know where you stand. And the person on our table that always talks straight and is famous for that is Ed Norton. And he gets jobs done by speaking straightforward and protected the district many times.
Thank you.
I already spoke. At our table, we were looking at service and professionalism and who we have in contact when we really need help or who's going to follow through for us. And we actually all talked about how whenever we've called Cindy Yelm, she always has the needs of the district at heart and will make sure everything's taken care of, but she always gets back to us and she's kind if we make that mistake and helps us correct it and make sure everything's done on time. She's
Very good.
Good afternoon. Ours is going to be for sense of purpose for Mr. Daniel Ariano. For many of you know him doing all kinds of other things in our district, but some of you that are on the SBSM board with me know that he is running the SBSM, runs a golf tournament, runs everything afterwards, which puts about $25,000 into our kids' pockets every year, and that's on his own time, in the mornings, everything else. So I think he deserves a round of applause for all the extra work above and beyond what he does while he's working.
For our table, we had identified an individual, Dana Dunhams, who is a program specialist for secondary education. Most of us may know her as a cheerleader for Apex. But just when you talk about passion for our kids and making sure that our kids are getting what they need, she is over and beyond in terms of helping sites to do what they need to do, helping kids to get where they need to be. So just an excellent model for us in regards to the district. Thank you.
At our table, when we were talking about an individual who just demonstrates the speed of trust and our basics for excellence, we agreed that we've got someone who makes it to almost every single district meeting, no matter what. He is reliable, he's loyal, he keeps his commitments, and that's Mike Fairfield, our AV support.
The person that we want to recognize also is Terry Comnick, because whenever I send him an email, he always educates me along with it. So it's just that's just right, and you know what I'm talking about. So his commitment and to our students in our schools it's something to be commendable.
At our table, we selected a person that embodies the listen first, and so this is a person that really will listen to what is going on around her and listen to what other people have to say before she draws on any of her own personal experience. And so it's just really a tremendous person to work with, and that was Lorraine Perez.
We were talking about our office staff and people back at the district office, and really deliver results, describes them, and they're so good of that, almost to a flaw, where they may take on too much. We have to be very careful how much to give, but they're just wonderful, and they really work so hard.
Well, so we have probably about 7,500 people, and that was only a few that we mentioned today. So if you get an opportunity to talk to those people that make that difference and embody what we're all about, these speed of trust behaviors and these basics for excellence, tell them, because they make the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Great job. And you can tell them because you have some thank you notes in the middle of your table, so please take one and during this meeting complete it and leave it on the table, and we'll make sure it gets sent over to the person that you want to compliment for their living out these values. Next up we have Janet, who will lead us through check-in. So Janet will describe what check-in is and walk you through that process.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. As we've done in the past, we have check-in where we know that when we come to meetings, sometimes we have burning issues or questions that are keeping us from focusing on the presentations and the things at hand. So what we'd like to do is take about 5 minutes at each of your tables and discuss what those issues might be, and then in about 5 minutes we'll come back around and have folks present those issues or questions, and hopefully we can bring them to resolution for you. So about 5 minutes, 2:05. Okay, if I can get everybody's attention back. Do we have anybody who'd like to offer up a question or a concern or bring an issue? Oh, come on. Really? That's too easy. Let's see, so let it get to the uncomfortable silence. So everybody's all good to go on to the next topic? Okay. With that, give it back to Dr. Marsden.
Thank you, Janet. Appreciate that. And so we are going to now go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is an update on our community engagement plan and the funding mechanisms relative to the local control and accountability plan that we operate in. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gonzalo, and he has a team presentation for you to go with. So here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just get this PowerPoint going real quick. As Dr. Marsden indicated, our LCAP plan is our community engagement plan, and it's a 3-year plan. It was written approximately 2 years ago, and every year we have to do an annual update. And there's indicators or action items that correspond to it, but every year we go through the process of doing an annual update to see where we're at with some of our actions. One thing I want to mention is that in regards to the PowerPoint, is that there might be some adjustments along the way, because there are a lot of things that we wrote that are really pre-planned for future dates, and as expenditures go through, the actual budget numbers or the amount might change over time as we go through the actual items. In regards to our LCAP, SBCUSD has 6 LCAP goals in the LCAP plan. The LCAP plan has to mainly do with student achievement. So as you can see from goal number 1, all students will graduate from high school with a focus on A through G course completion. Goal number 2 has to do with English learners becoming proficient. Goal 3, all students will reach high standards. Goal 4, all students will be taught by highly qualified teachers. Goal 5 is engaging and involving our stakeholders. And goal 6 has to do with a learning environment. The action items or the initiatives that we've taken throughout this past year were all given by our stakeholders, indicating that these were specific things that we needed to do. And it was divided into our various cabinet members. The very first one, this slide number 3, has to do with the textbook expenditures. There was $77 million allocated for language arts textbooks adoption. And obviously, the textbooks have to be state approved. They're aligned with Common Core. They're full digital and also access. There's a lot of trainings that go on along with it. And those, once we go through the adoption process, the training will occur in August. For slide number 4, these are some of the things that we've either done or are going to do. And this one has to do with AVID. There was $500,000 allocated to the AVID LCAP line item. Last year, we started some of the initiatives, but we had some carryover. There was approximately $79,000 that we carried over last year. And the student support, the allocation was about $140,000 went to tutors. About $90,000 went to college and university experiences. We also have Summer Institute training that goes on. $12,000 is being allocated to that. There's $2,500 allocated to AVID coordinators, because AVID is a big initiative. Also, there's approximately $25,000 going to AVID site teams to attend the conference. And AVID is extremely important. As we know, last year we were recognized as an AVID, some of the success with our AVID programs. And also, we also have a AVID National Demonstration School. As I indicated earlier today, we have approximately 24 elementary schools who have indicated that they're going to send people to the AVID summer training. So it's really a wonderful thing. Also, we want to continue to expand our AVID program. This year, like I said, we have 24 moving in that direction, and hopefully we'll have more over time. We also, this year, we also have 4 AVID model schools. Basically, these are going to be demonstration schools for not only our district, but also for surrounding districts also. And we're also going to have a district AVID liaison, which is serves as a link between the county and also our school sites. Furthermore, the last year we started a summer AVID program, which is basically a bridge program between the middle schools and the high school. We had approximately 170 students participate from the various middle schools, and it was extremely successful for our students, and it's something that our parents and our students and also our AVID coordinators at the high school said that they want to continue. So we're going to expand that. We're going to actually have a AVID middle bridge program, so our elementary school students going on to the middle schools. We're going to do that this coming summer. And we also provide the college-going experience, the parent trainings, and we're also collaborating with Dr. Mitchell's office. So that way when the parents go to the trainings, those students will also be able to be eligible to receive the Chromebooks at the end. So it's a wonderful thing. And we actually, last night, I received a compliment from one of our AVID teachers, Dr. Mike Adams from Sanji, Dion, and he was indicating that the tremendous growth that his students are having because of the AVID support. In regards to the expenditures for sites, I'll let Terry Comnick quickly go over this slide.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. The AVID, got my head in AVID. The allocations for the sites equaled about $6.2 million. And what I was asked to do was go and pull the numbers to see where they are right now at this point in time with regard to their expenditures. And right now, as of January 11th, they were at around 79% spent. And as Gonzalo pointed out, that number is going to fluctuate based on encumbrances, based on actualizations of expenditures. So that is a tentative number, but they're on track to max out the expenditures or the allocations that they received this year's students for this year's money. And that was the whole focus. We've also increased our monitoring by adding a single component budget updates. So far, I have given 2 budget updates to the sites, and from this point forward, February, March, and so forth, they will be getting monthly updates and where they are. And we're also going out, my staff and myself are going out to the sites and individually meeting with sites where there may be some concern of excessive amounts perhaps in some areas to make sure that we maximize those dollars in alignment with their single plans.
The next item is, next slide is Latino student achievement. There was approximately 1.6 million allocated. Last year, we carried over about 1.4 million. So combined, it gave us a certain amount. Some of the expenditure things that we've done this year, and keep in mind that these are all based on stakeholder recommendations, and we've actually met with the DAC and the DLAC and various stakeholders throughout this year to make sure that they were seeing the alignment between what's actually happening with their recommendations. This coming summer, we're starting a Puente program, which is bridge in Spanish, for some of our students, focusing on ELA, math, and character building for them as they transition into the high schools. Also, we're doing a Future Leaders Summer program with Dr. Tom and Lily Riveras. We've done it historically for a number of years, and we sat down with them and we indicated, well, how can we increase the participation rate? Because on the average, it was about 15 students per year. This year, and it's a big celebration, our goal, and we're going to hit our target with the support of Anna Sosa and the EL department, we're going to send 40 students to the summer Future Leader programs, which is a wonderful opportunity for them. Furthermore, we've allocated money to the AVID middle school and the AVID high schools because we know that in order for our students to be successful, they need the additional support. And many of our high school principals, Hector and Dion, I'm sure you could attest, basically our goal is for every AVID classroom to have 5 tutors, AVID tutors in those classrooms, also to receive the support and those college experiences that go along with it. So we've allocated a per pupil allocation to both the middle school and the high schools to increase our AVID success rate and our student success rate. Also, like I indicated, there's $16,000 allocated to AVID model schools. We have 4 model schools this year, and we're hoping to grow and develop as the years go by. And so whenever we visit or do instructional rounds to those schools, basically we'll feel like an AVID school with the binders, with the banners, and with the student and the teacher's understanding of what those AVID instructional shifts. We're also doing a theaters workshop as a pilot with the central cluster. Basically, it's for our EL students and our mainstream students to be able to do some theater workshops, presentation performances at the end of the school day, just to give those students those type of experiences. And it's for the central cluster. We've also have allocated $600 for the Latino History Bee, and that's with the Arrowview Middle School, San Bernardino High School, and I believe they've also invited other elementary schools. Sure.
What does PPA mean?
A per pupil allocation. So the number of avid students that are at a school site, we calculated a certain amount per pupil. So it equals a certain amount per school, depending on the number of avid students that they have.
And what is that money used for?
The money is basically used for the tutors, also for the college experiences to visit, do some field trips, possibly to local universities. I know Middle College, I think they do a road trip to certain schools, and so does Pacific going Northern California, right? And also some state systems, Cal State systems also.
So it doesn't go to funding of the positions for the actual classroom teachers?
No funding for the actual teacher positions, more for the student type of activities. So Hector, maybe you could share some of the things that your school is doing with AVID, if you mind.
What we've done is we've increased the number of tutors in all our AVID classrooms, and so that helps. The more tutors, the less the less students have to. The more or the less students are per tutor. We also do an annual Northern California AVID trip, and we are expanding in the coming years to also include sophomores. Possibly next year, sophomore. So right now what we're doing is a Northern California junior trip. Next year what we want to do is we want to go down to the sophomores and do local Southern California trips that don't have to stay overnight. But maybe they do San Diego one day, do 2 or 3 schools in San Diego, Fullerton, Irvine, whatever. So that's for the sophomores. And then we also want to go all the way down to the freshmen and have the freshmen actually go visit local universities like our own Cal State, our junior colleges, but that way we kind of scaffold it a little bit. Start with the juniors, giving them, freshmen, showing them some very local schools. Our sophomores would take longer trips, and then our juniors would definitely go away and stay for the week like they do now. Some of the other things that we do for our AVID students with our money is we have we put together a parent night this year where we're inviting all of our parents to include our cluster parents also. We had that was very successful. We're doing a elementary AVID night during football. So we invite all our elementary students to one of our football games, our homecoming game, and we feed them, and they get to go through the parade, and they get to eat dinner with us. One of the other things that we're doing this year is we're doing AVID 6th graders practicing with our graduates. So for our graduation practice, we're bringing the AVID 6th graders, and they're going to go through the graduation practice with us. So again, I pay for all the buses for anything that has to do with elementary or Del Vallejo, who is our feeder. Pacific picks up the tab, everything. As long as I get all the students there and as long as I get parents, we're willing to pay for it.
Thank you, Hector. And this is something that our stakeholders really wanted in regards to being informed of their not only the high school but also the A through G and the requirements for college. So. Furthermore, in regards to intervention, slide number 8, this year, like someone had indicated before with Dana Denham's, last year we purchased as a board, they approved the Apex A through G credit recovery system. So we've allocated money for, starting in February, we're going to offer 8 sessions, Saturday sessions, for schools or students to participate in offering students the opportunity to recover A through G classes on Saturdays. And I believe it's my understanding that all the high schools are going to be offering those sessions. Also, we purchased the Reading A through Z licenses for approximately 400 teachers ABE teachers to use that within their classrooms to develop reading fluency. The additional support, professional development, we've done the fourth grade literacy project through the elementary and secondary ed, inviting teachers to really focus on the necessary skills and strategies and concepts that deal with literacy. Furthermore, we have math professional development. We also have training coming up for the building the master schedule, and also AVID summer training that happens in July for approximately 24 schools participating in that. In regards to supplementary materials, we purchase materials for our dual programs in the middle school. We also, this coming month, we have a science fair day for our students to display their science fair projects, the school site winners, and then from there they'll be selected and the winners will go on to the county science fair. We also purchase supplementary materials once again for our dual programs. So as you see, there's lots of initiatives under the Latino Student Achievement. Our division and along with our principals, we've been working very hard to support our students and ensuring that they become successful as they transition to high school and beyond. Furthermore, at this point we have a recommendation for technology support for some of our schools who need additional support for technology. There's also at San Bernardino High School, along with Cajon, we're working at developing an ethnic studies class, an A through G approved ethnic studies class. We've also allocated money for the Ed Trust West study that was conducted this year. We had to allocate funds for translations because a lot of the LCAP documents and things of that nature require a tremendous amount of translations. And also there's administrative costs that has to do with food, catering, and things of that nature for our meetings. The next slide I want to go over quickly is the gifted slide. Yes, Robert?
How are we ensuring that we're focusing on Latino students within all of those things we've listed?
So one of the things that we're doing is that making sure that the students who participate, there's approximately 75% of our students in the district that are from EL or Latino descent. So we're making sure that we connect with those students as we look at let's say the Apex, as we run the D's and F reports, making sure that the class makeups are from students from Latino descent. But obviously we're not going to deny anyone either from participating in those opportunities. So we are trying to be as sensitive as possible to ensuring that all students have the opportunity, but at the same time encouraging certain students of certain ethnic descent to participate in that. So it's something that we're aggressively being sensitive to that makeup of those classes or those programs. For the gifted programs, there was 232,000 allocated. There's about 142,000 carried over last year. This year has, I believe, as Rebecca had indicated earlier regarding teacher trainings, we've been offering Saturday sessions and during the week sessions for our teachers. By the end of this year, our goal is to have approximately 142 teachers GATE certified, not only mainstream teachers, but also ABE teachers, dual teachers, and it's also open to secondary schools. 13,000 is going to facility books and materials. 75,000 is going to substitute and stipends for participants who participate in the trainings. We also, this year, we purchased the Nigliari nonverbal ability test. Before we used to use the Raven test. It was been around for many years. It was nationally normed referenced, I think by the 1950s. So we purchased an updated system to assist our students. And I believe most of our students have went through the process of being identified already. It's an online assessment. And so we actually have to purchase a technology to go along with it. And when students are administered the results, the old Raven test used to take months to complete and get the results. This is actually much quicker. I think it's within a day or a few days. Also, we allocated 35,000 for 66 teachers to go through the CAG training. And also there's 125,000 allocated for advanced placement for international baccalaureate programs. And for certain students who go to those magnet programs, like Chavez, we've allocated 21,000 for students to have transportation to get to those sites. For the visual performing arts, there was $5,000, so 500,000. There was on your sheet, it was typo, it was 600. There's actually 500,000. There was a carryover, $100,000 last year. And I believe so. Well, we purchased many equipments based on stakeholder recommendations, also PD training for our teachers, the music teachers. And there was $100,000 allocated to technology, for example, soundboards or light boards, microphones, etc. There's about $100,000 allocated to instructional resources, $70,000 to the percussion ensemble, the drum line, and $330,000 for the implementation of the strategic plan that we're still working through that process. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Arellano for the EL reclassification slide.
Hello. So on this slide here, what you see here is that we carried over close to $1 million last year. However, when you look at the bottom, you can see that it is all being utilized this year. And so when we look, and more, when we look at that, for example, there are 6 program specialists that we have working at the district office as well as at our school sites. With our school sites, that is where you see the $800,000 plus amount there to make sure that we are serving our schools. So we have increased the support that is being provided to our schools. There's $175,000 that is set aside for professional development. We're speaking about GLAD training. We also have gotten creative in terms of when professional development is provided, because we know the importance of making sure that our students are in class and the teachers are there in class with them during class time. So we've moved to having professional development after school. Also when the breaks occur, for example, there was an outstanding ELA, ELD staff development took place over the winter break. And so you can see that we have $175,000 there. We also clearly know the importance of making sure our parents are involved. That is what they've asked. You can see that we have close to $100,000 set aside to make sure that that's taking place. We continue with the work of our multilingual initiative. So you can see the dollar amount that is set aside there. Gonzalo mentioned earlier the importance of making sure that our documents are translated. As much as we have sought to keep up with the work, it's increased in terms of making sure, because whatever we offer in the English language, we also want to make sure that it's being offered in Spanish, meaning that our community, we have a high percentage of Spanish speakers in our community. In the ELD benchmark, we all know the importance of making sure that we're measuring progress and that our students are increasing in their English learner proficiency. So we are working on that this year. We have $60,000 set aside. And then we also have intervention manuals that we provided to our schools. It's the pre-referral intervention manual that all of our schools have. Excellent ideas, goes hand in hand with the work that Mr. Brown is leading in terms of the multi-tiered support system, and again, providing resources to our school sites to help our students, of course, improve on their language as well as academically. We have $175,000 set aside for instructional resources. For example, Grammar Gallery and online. We purchased that for each of our teachers. We continue to offer the professional development. It's an outstanding resource. We have that for 2 years. Then we also have, right now, a little over $350,000 because we know the importance of serving our long-term English learners. And so again, really happy to report that Anna Applegate has come on board as a director for our middle and high school, so I very much have welcomed her. And really, we're working collaboratively again to make sure that we're addressing that, because we know that our students can learn, and it's a matter of making sure that we're providing them with the appropriate instruction that's going to get them to excel and to have them show what we know they know. Then we also had a purchase of bilingual books that we bought for each of our bilingual classrooms. Each of our bilingual teachers was provided with $1,000 in product. They were able to select it, and so that is where we come to the figure that you see there at the bottom right, a little over $2 million. Okay, so I'll hand this back to you now, Mr. Avila. Yes?
Can you give us an example of what we did for parent involvement?
Yes, what it is that we have that we have them go to some conferences. For example, on the 30th of January, we have some parents who have been invited to go to it's a conference that will be entirely conducted in Spanish. We also have had our enrollment fair that we had, then the involvement that we have at the different meetings. For example, right now, we've had 5 meetings for our master plan for English learners, and making sure that our parents are a vital part of giving their input in terms of how we can move the work forward.
So, the main purpose here is for you to kind of get a sense of what's going on here. So now discuss at your tables what you heard, what you see so far. Any questions you have? Are we on the right track? Any questions, any concerns, any comments? And take about maybe 5 minutes or so to do that as a team on this first section. Then we'll have the teams come up and continue to brief the rest of the slides. So again, the purpose of your hearing this information is so you can digest it and say, are we on the right track? Questions, concerns, or comments that emerged from your table, shoot. So this is your time to give us input. What do you think? Can we hear back from you? We have a microphone that can go around. Somebody still has that? We have a runner. All right. Great. Peg, and I'm going to run this one to you because I'm closer.
One of the observations we had, and let me preface this by saying we recognize that the monies that are in the LCFF came with targeted audiences. When we do this kind of presentation with folks who don't live, breathe, eat, and sleep what we do all day long, we also need to, we're leaving out the impression of what we're doing for all students, where the focus appears to be strictly on our English learners. What are we doing for all of our students, and how are we spending the dollars to do that? And I realize you have a slide that's going to delve into some portion of that as well.
That's a great point. And most importantly, this doesn't cover but a fraction of our budget. We have about a $600 and some odd thousand dollar, I'm looking for Janie, budget, am I right? $640,000 million budget. Yeah, $640 million budget. And this is a small portion of that. We're simply wanting to get your feedback on. You're absolutely right. We want to explain the whole picture because there are so many things we're doing collectively, and that's well taken. So thank you. Any other thoughts, reflections, questions, comments? On the right track? Yes, sir. We have a student voice here, so go ahead. Mr. Martinez is bringing you a microphone. Thank you.
Hi. I'm currently a student here at Middle College High School, and I was actually part of the junior trip through AVID. And I feel like that was something that really helped us all out as a class because we got to see what colleges around our state are. So we got to see not only what San Bernardino is, but also other places. And one thing that I felt was that we need to do a lot of work in our community. And with that, I feel like it made all of our students more bonded. And not only did it have a positive effect on what we think about college, but also in our community, because I know that we've done a couple thousand hours of community service as a senior class this year. And I feel like we could do more if we help out those students.
It's fantastic feedback. Thank you very much for your comment. And a lot of what we're doing here in this LCAP plan is to close what we call that opportunity gap, giving our young people the opportunities to do things that are going on just because of where people live by their zip code. We want those to be by design here, and so some of that is really important to us. So all of that's important to us. So any other feedback or comments before we go on to the next portion of this presentation? Yes, Ms. Walker. And just wait for the microphone if you don't mind. I never know in an audience if we have some that are hearing impaired or not, so thank you.
So I was just sharing with the table about the EL and reclassification budget, and I was just saying I'm excited about the fact that the specific targeted areas of money that have been allocated to specific things that affect English language learners, especially reclassification and working at the high school level, because they miss out on a lot of opportunities because they have not been classified and they're not geared on certain pathways because of that. So I'm excited about this, and it's definitely a significant difference from 5 years ago. So we know that you guys are on your way to really looking at some targeted measurements for these students. So
thank you. Thank you for that affirmation. Great. Much appreciated. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and without further delay and go on to the next section. Who are we turning it over to now? Our Chief of Police, Joe Paulino. And you don't want to argue with the man with a gun, so he's perfectly wired up for good agreement today.
Marsden, thank you very much. It's always good to be here to present. Yes, 17. Yeah, Dr. Mitchell had to leave, and he requested that I present his portion of this presentation. And if you look at slide 13 here, we're looking at counselors, 10 additional across the board with the expenditure of $720,000. Next. And also in support of our African American student achievement, with an expenditure of $488,000. This is the list of items as we go down that list. Organizations that is in support of this effort. Next, sir. Yes.
And so, are we targeting our African American students with these groups?
Yes, yes, sir. What's that? You want me to take it? No, we already. Also, when we look at expenditures when it comes to other services as well as foster youth, these are our efforts as we move forward in support of this effort. Today's expenditure is $440,000. And also, as you know, and this is a huge topic across the board when it comes to parent involvement as well as in student engagement. And once again, it's broke out in terms of technology as well as family training and things that we have done in support of this effort as well. On this list is a combination, and you'll find safety and security, which falls under Dr. Keenan Mitchell as well as myself. Our efforts when it comes to making sure that we address safety across the board, PBIS. Our efforts when it comes to strategic plan number 9, as we build this. This is our efforts to date as we've invested $800,000 to get this done. Next, sir. Once again, Keenan mentioned that these are our efforts when it comes to making sure that parents are empowered as we do this work to make sure that bullying is addressed, and we empower our teachers to be able to be aware of PBIS as we do this work to make sure our district as a whole is safe when it comes to this information where parents as well as students are empowered. And you can see the amount that's invested in this area as well. All right, who's up for Dr. Wiseman?
So there's a lot of great programs, a lot of things that we're doing, but of course we need the people to be able to carry out these services. And so on behalf of Dr. Wiseman, I wanted to report out that we have been working with our unions to make sure that we are looking at how we increase services and support to students. At the table that I was at, and of course you can read the slides, we were looking at something that was missing, and maybe that's something that you can help to contribute to us, is our summer graduation program. How are we funding that? This would be an increased support and service to our students as we're trying to increase our graduation rate. So that might be something that we want to include in that discussion. So in looking at our human capital and providing this service, because as educators we provide a service to our students, looking at this list, what are some things that maybe we have not considered? So if you can kind of think about that for a few seconds, and then we can share out. Yes, sir.
So one of the issues I've seen actually would be for online access to school textbooks and workbooks. I see that there is money implemented into this, that we are buying the newest, or we're buying resources that our teachers and students could use. But one of the issues I'm seeing is that they rely more on the old ways, so they use the textbooks more, but you still see that CD in the back of the book, or those codes that aren't being used because the teachers don't take time to learn how it works, or they just let the student find out how it works. And like half of the books we see in some schools aren't even like disc opened or anything. So maybe that's something we should focus on, to not only let the students and teachers focus on the book, but also try to use the codes and the discs that are being in, like there, because that's just a waste of money if we're not using them at all. So, yeah.
That's just like how he was saying about Apex. We should have more students, well, actually more teachers break it down so that way we could teach more and kids will understand it more without just like not having nothing to learn. Because with Apex, you're just reading and then taking the quizzes and you're not learning anything. And just like he was saying, you could have the teachers break it down and teach and then take notes and take the quiz after to see what that student learned.
So we're looking at maybe adding some more live support to our APEX program so that we can help students better understand the material. Our APEX programs are our online A through G courses that allow students to make up courses that they failed. Robert, did you have something to share?
Just student feedback is really meaningful because we really advocate to have a full-fledged teacher in each one of those APEX courses so that the kids have that guided instruction. So I totally support that.
Okay, any other comments? Remember, we're looking at how we can increase the service and support to students, because ultimately that support is going to yield higher graduation rates, higher achievement for students. So any other ideas that we could add? Ana Maria, she's thinking.
It was in my eyes. I was just curious. I'm trying to understand, is this related to each school site, the tutoring, or how? Because I'm looking at the teacher availability. I'm trying to understand, what does that mean?
So basically what that means is that as we're negotiating with our teachers, we wanted to make sure that one of the examples was the increase of the instructional day, or instructional time, and also the teacher day, I'm sorry, Robert. So we wanted to make sure that teachers were available to students before and after school. So if, let's say, a parent wants to drop by, or if, let's say, a student needs some help with a homework question, that the teachers were available to the students, again, to increase communication and also help with that open door policy.
Quick question. One of the things I know students also talk about is access to counselors at the high school level after school hours. So I don't know how that could be restructured, and I know other districts do it, and so I think that might be something to look at.
It's a great idea. Any other comments or feedback in regards to this? Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am, Ms. Peg Tracy.
This is probably not going to be very popular right this minute. But when you have 40 students in a high school classroom, you cannot develop a personal relationship with all of them throughout the year to be a part of this kind of service increase for students. Just the simple conversation around where are your goals, where do you want to go? You don't have time to do that with 40 students. Where in the high school, you could easily have 240 students on your roster.
So maybe looking at, let's say, our class size ratios would be a way that we could increase service and support to students. Okay, thank you, Peg. Anyone else want to share? Okay, next slide.
Thank you, Sandra. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to take us through a couple different pieces of the LCAP plan. In terms of athletics, happy to announce, as you heard a little bit earlier, that last night our board approved our athletic strategic plan that will guide our actions for the next number of years. We made a conscious decision when we went into that effort that we would not spend any money that was not of an emergency nature before we had the actual plan in place, so that then we could budget the plan instead of having just spending money wildly, which we could do, by the way. There are lots of needs in this area. So the only allocation we've made to date is we sent out $25,000 per comprehensive high school in terms of emergency needs. We had volleyball poles that were so old they were bent, and as a result the net was sagging in the middle, and the referees were saying, you can't play the game because it's not regulation to CIF. So when we ran into and every school had those types of needs, so we sent out a small amount of money to each school. Now that the plan has been approved, we're doing an in-depth needs analysis at every high school to say what are the specific needs, and middle school as well, because this is a K-12 program or plan. What are the needs and how can we best spend the money that we have, which is $350,000 from last year, $500,000 for this year, and then we're anticipating another $500,000, so about $1.3 million left, which doesn't go a long way in a district our size, but we're excited about what the plan will call for. It really is about much more than facilities and personnel. It talks about life skills, academics in college, overall wellness, et cetera. So we're excited about that. Some early wins, just very, very quickly. We've been able to use bond money. If you go by San Bernardino High School, you'll see a nice brand new sod athletic field on the football field. There will eventually be an all-weather track that goes around that football field, new bleachers, refurbished snack bar. We have our middle school sports program funding back up to where it was. And so we're seeing some early wins in terms of facilities. Very happy about that. One of the other elements that I had the opportunity to oversee was our operational support. And this is kind of the catch-all of the LCAP plan. What supports do we need to put in place to make sure everything else is happening? So it was mentioned earlier that you can count on Ed Norton to talk straight. If you want to hear Ed talk straight, ask him about adding 15 schools and lots of facilities and lots of fields at a time when we were cutting personnel through $100 million in cuts. He'll talk really straight if you want to talk to him about that, okay? So we made a conscious decision in the first year because once you spend the money on people, it's no longer there. So we invested a significant amount in equipment the first year, and then the second year we bought some personnel, 6 additional groundskeepers, to facilitate getting all the work done that needs to get done when you add a lot of square footage of both, well, in this case particularly turf and grounds. We've done some things with parent training, academic competitions. This part of the LCAP was designed to fill the needs that the other pieces didn't fill. So our academic competitions, for example, we have successes in the district, but not widespread in the district. And so we're working with a group to say, how can we spend some money on our academic competitions to make sure our kids are being really successful? So you see a variety of programs there where other funds just did not allow for allocations in that area. Next slide. So everything from videography, equipment. So if you see these nice videos that the communications department, actually they're not nice, they're amazing actually, and totally professional. We were able to put some money into that department to get some top-end, really top-end equipment. And you can see some of it pointing directly at me. If you look over there, there's some of the top-end equipment right there. Okay? And this is what we're doing this year. This is where we're investing in people to get the work done. Everything from the 6 maintenance and operations people to career tech teachers, et cetera. So this is mostly in line with people. Innovation grants, our board allocated $750,000 in each of 3 years, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17. For 14, 15, and our current school year, 15, 16, those monies have been allocated and granted to a variety of schools and organizations. So that $1.5 million is allocated. It's not all spent yet, but it is allocated through a grant process. And our innovation grants team is actually, we just met earlier in the week to talk about this year's process, which you'll be hearing about very shortly, if not when you get back to your offices, because we have a memo ready to go out. So that process is moving along nicely.
As you can see, there's lots of work going on. It's really heavy, and it's one person, one department does not do the work on their own. It requires the commitment and the dedication and perseverance of our parents, our students, our teachers, and our classified employees. So it's a tremendous amount of work. This work will continue. The LCAP process itself, like I said, it's a 3-year plan. Every year we have to do an annual update, and then it will continue next year and the following year. So for a time's sake, take a minute and discuss at your table with your elbow partner what is one thing that was shared today that will have a significant impact on college and career readiness rates. Take 1 minute to discuss and share. Would anyone like to share, or a student like to share? Or anyone else? Sandra?
At our table, we discussed the summer graduation program and how it's important to allocate and be thoughtful. It's an ongoing cost, and we need to make sure that it's allocated in the budget so that we're not running at the last minute trying to fund the program. Also, we need to make sure that we have all the support that we need to run a summer program, and that includes our classified people. We need to make sure that we're allocating funds so that we have people that will help us with the attendance and run the office, and oftentimes we forget about that.
Good point, thank you. Robert?
So the three that we listed as our group was addressing class size ratios, which also includes counselors, parent engagement, not all of the different subgroups or how to focus on it, so we could beef that up a little bit more, and then as well with the summer program. So graduation, and we called it instruction. So in addition to having the people to teach the programs, you need the people to open up the school, to help it run, so the kids come back and forth, to feed them. It's that whole operation.
Thank you for sharing the three. One more. Anyone else? Well, everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you. Join me in thanking Gonzalo and the whole team for their work and presentation. And again, this is a pulse check. This is a 3-year plan. We don't anticipate large changes, but we do want to be flexible and can be flexible, and we want to be able to express to the board the thoughts of you in the room. So thank you so much. You know, I've made a note that a couple things before we have Dr. Volkemer come up and close us out in our balanced life discussion and next steps. I've made some notes for our next meeting. One, you know, I want to again just underscore the need to have, and please help me with this. I need your help as individuals, as parents, teachers, et cetera. We want more teachers present with us. We want more parents, parent group leaders, students, community partners. So please help us make that effort to make sure that we have a good balance of stakeholders in this room. That's important to me, and so I appreciate your efforts to make that happen. So look around you if you notice that we're missing a group of any folks representing the district that will be helpful to us. Please let's take advantage of that. We can't obviously have 300 people, but we do want to make sure that we have the right people in the room. Secondly, for February 18th, we're inviting our union leaders to join us. We would like to do a collective presentation on the budget. And what I mean by that is this. We often will hear not just from what we get from the county, but also from the School Services of California. They're a statewide group that's well known. Most of your school district leaders go and hear how they interpret the Legislative Analyst's Office interpretation of the budget. What is the governor doing? How are things looking? What's the economic picture for the state of California? So we want to have a presentation from school services, our district. We also want to invite a presentation from CTA leaders, CSEA leaders, any other union leaders that can provide a presentation perspective on the budget. And here's why I do this. I've found in my experience, if we don't do that, what we end up with is all of our teams being on different planets in terms of what the interpretation of the budget is. What we want to do is be in the same room. So that way when we're going about discussions about how we navigate our public's dollars as stewards of those dollars, that we're all on the same page in terms of how much do we have, what are our debts, our obligations, STRS, PERS, all those things that we have responsibilities for, what the economic outlooks are, and be clear as we take actions toward that so we can remain financially solvent, solid, and prepared so that when and if, well probably not if, but when the next downturn comes, hopefully God willing it won't be as deep as it was previously, but we will be well prepared, and the advantages of being solid financially, even having and I'll advocate, you'll hear me do this over the next several years, I'll advocate for helping us to have a solid reserve, because you can have a more proactive approach to scaling down programs and people rather than just slashing and having to stop the bus all at once. So we'll continue to walk through that together for our next meeting. So with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Volkemer to close us out with our financial health discussion. So welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. In your folders today, you have a little handout. But before we move to that, I want to ask you, how many of you are good at getting yearly physicals? Just take 1 second. You don't have to, some of you know already. Okay, how many of you are really good at getting a yearly physical every single year? Raise your hand, nice and high. Okay. So the rest of us, because my hand's not up, I was just doing that as modeling. I'm terrible at it, terrible. I'm almost 6 years overdue for my 50-year, physical, because that's the unfun one, the most unfun one of all. Okay. So I'm avoiding it at all costs. So many of you are good at getting yearly physicals, okay? How many of you do a yearly financial health physical? Raise your hand. So you take a good long look at your finances and say, where am I at today in relation to where I was at a year ago? Now, some of you I know keep a close eye on your finances, and you're checking, every minute of every day. In fact, if I spent $11.12 at lunch today, my wife would know by 1:10. Yeah, Dennis Warman is like, yeah, I get that too all the time. You spent what? Okay, because you can look it up all online now. There's no way to hide it anymore. Okay, but the good news in that is that you can check it all the time. It's easier to keep control of your financial health. And as we know, as we talk about having a balanced life, financial health is a big part of that, okay? So I chose this article. I looked at several, and I chose this article because it's got some really good tools in it. And I'm not going to go through it line by line, but word for word. But there's just a couple concepts, and that is your net worth growing, okay? And net worth is just what you have versus what you owe. The simple definition of net worth is, what do I own and what do I owe? So if I own a home that is valued at $300,000, and I bought it at the height of the market many years ago, and I owe $450,000 on that, what is valued $300,000 home now, my net worth is what, for the math majors in the room? Negative $150,000, not a good thing. Okay? So if you look at your overall assets and your overall debt, it's very easy, fairly easy to calculate, depending on how complicated it is, very easy to look at your net worth. Sometimes you can actually get rid of assets to increase your net worth, right? Depending upon the debt ratio that you have. So just a concept in terms of, is my net worth growing year after year or year upon year? Okay? Talked about ratios for a little bit. Basic ratio, if you spend more than you take in, and you've heard Dr. Marsden say this, if you spend more than you take in, that's a bad thing, okay? Okay? If you take in more than you spend, that's a good thing, but it's also a good thing to still look at where you're spending your money, okay? I think I've shared with you before, I'll just share a personal experience. In our home, Friday night is go out to dinner night, and anybody who's around gets to go. So we have 6 of our own kids, and if they each have a friend or two, we're a pretty good ticket to a restaurant in town. And we got on this sushi bandwagon. I'm looking at Peg and smiling because we've eaten sushi a few times together. We got on this sushi bandwagon where we went to the same sushi restaurant in Redlands 13 Fridays in a row. Okay? And we realized that we were spending over $500 a month on raw fish. Okay? We had to get that back, and it was a lot of fun, and the family enjoyed it and everything, and we still do those types of things, but it gets away from you quickly, and you don't even realize it's happening if you're not monitoring it. Okay? So look at your debt. Look how you're spending your money. Are you spending more than you earn? On page, well, it's the second page of the handout, down about 2/3 of the way, it talks about how are your ratios, and everyone should aim to save 15% of their salaries, while empty nesters, a dream I have for the future, preparing for retirement should save up to 20 to 25%, and then right below that it talks about children's college. We have 5 children in college right now, okay? I've shared with some of you that I come to these meetings for the free food, okay? So look at your spending patterns. The quotation, I think, on the bottom of that page is a powerful one. The problem with most people's finances is that they talk about it, but they never consolidate and organize their financial data in an easily manageable way so that they can know at any given moment where they stand, okay? So do you know where your documents are? If you have a living trust, do you know where it is? Do you know when the last time you updated it is? If you looked at your budget, if you have a budget, do you know where it is and are you subscribing to it? Important stuff, okay? Are you insured? Are you properly insured? Insurance is an interesting endeavor when it comes to your finances. And what has changed in your life? Your finances change as your life changes. So I'll share one last thing about our family, and that is at one time we had car insurance for 8 drivers, 6 of whom were under 25 years of age. Yeah, that was a hard check to write every month. It was a large check to write and a hard check to write every month. Our situation has changed since then. Okay, we've got a couple of them on their own car insurance, which is great. But as those things change, you need to come back to your financial statement or your budget or whatever and change how you spend that money. It's a great opportunity when those things go away to save more money. Okay? And finally, if you're heavily invested in the stock market right now, don't panic. Right? Don't panic. I see some heads nodding, right? This is the worst start to a year in the history of the stock market. Okay? Unless you sold short, that's true. Well, there's problems with that too, but the economy is strong. Remember the stock market, and many of you, if you have a TSA, if you have a money market account, many of those are hinged to the stock market, the S&P 500, where whatever it's, whatever the vehicle is underneath it. Okay, the economy is still strong. Okay, the stock market will rebound, but the stock market is sensitive to international financial matters. Our current economy is still very strong, but we are heading for a recession. So be conservative and check. Do you spend time with the person who invests your money for you? Think about that. Okay, when's the last time you talked to the person who runs your TSA? Okay, or your trust fund or whatever you might have that manages your money. If you haven't talked to that person in a long time, it's probably time to give them, a call and say, how are we doing? And they'll come out of that little comfortable zone they get because they're a vendor. It's no different than a plumber, right? If one plumber's not doing a good job for you, you can always find another one. Okay, and so you have to spend time with your financial advisor to say, are we really, really doing well here? Because they're getting paid either way, usually, the way those are structured. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe. Talk amongst your table about anything that you read or I said that has meaning, and then we'll share out just for a couple minutes, and then we'll head for, might not head for home, but we'll head to our next meeting. Concepts, thought, Ron?
As a parent that has a lot of children also, the one thing that has always griped me is when you go into a restaurant and you have 8 people or more, they always add a surcharge onto that, and I don't like that at all. So I feel sorry for your $500.
Anybody else? Those are things to watch for, though. That seems kind of a simple, but they don't come right out and say, hey, we've already added the tip. There's not a big sign and, bold letters. So it's not uncommon that if you don't notice that, they've put the 18%, and if you're not paying attention, you add gratuity on top of that. And now someone's walking away a server walking away very happy for the evening. So it's just about awareness and mindfulness. Rose?
So my husband has mapped out Monday through Sunday where you can go and the kids eat free.
And taking that one step further is your husband turning into an app so that you can charge people for that information. See, it's not only a cost savings, it could be a cost generation as well. Yeah, I'd love to have that. In fact, we'll talk after the meeting.
Here's one you have control over. I didn't realize this. When my electric bill was $300, $400, and then my water bill was $300. So when you cut down on your water, and then you watch those electrical kinds of situations, make sure the lights are turned off, it cut down everything in half. So that was like $400, $300 or more a month that was saved just by doing that.
So we'll do true confessions for just a minute. How many of you let the water run while you brush your teeth? Oh, come on, you guys are, okay. Gentlemen, or ladies, I suppose, how many of you let the water run while you shave? Yeah, so you think about, you're actually using the water that's running from the spigot for no time at all, and yet it's running while you're brushing. Okay, and it's just money literally going down the drain. Okay, any other thoughts, comments? Dr. Marsden reminded me, if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey's work, he talks about having $1,000 as an emergency fund readily available that you can get to in a heartbeat if you need to, if you have an emergency. And the laugh is, a sale on a big screen TV is not an emergency. Maybe tempting, but it's not an emergency. Okay, so just having that bit of security that for instance, on Monday morning, as I was walking across down our hallway, I walked through a puddle. I'm like, this is not good. There's not supposed to be water there. We had to call a plumber for an emergency leak kind of thing, and we had money right there. It's done. Now we'll replenish that cost, and it doesn't have to be budgeted. It's already taken care of. We didn't have to go looking for the money to get our leak fixed. So, okay. With that.
One comment, it was brought to my attention, we have a typo on our agenda. The next meeting is actually February 17, not 18. So forgive me, and make sure that we have that noted, so that'll be the date that we have our next extended cabinet.
Okay, with that, we're going to ask that you fill out the plus delta forms that are at your table. We do read each and every one of these in our endeavors to make our meetings more meaningful. So that's your ticket out the door. We won't collect them, just leave them on the table. And if you didn't have a chance to write a thank you note, still a little time to do that just for someone. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.